I think this is something that people should understand. Viruses don't want to kill their hosts. They want to use their host, in this case us, to replicate, and then make sure that the host coughs and spreads the virus to its next host. And as long as the host is alive and coughing, that's the best thing a virus can ask for. Simplistically, all of us here, living creatures, are basically here to make copies of ourselves, to reproduce. And as I talk about in the plant paradox, once you make copies, you're in a way, you've done your job, and you ought to get out of the way and don't let your kids and grandchildren take over. Part of the problem with this particular virus is it's a cousin of the common cold, and it's actually because it behaves like the common cold in terms of its infectivity that makes it so mischievous. By that I mean, for instance, a lot of discussion, particularly in the United States, was, well, in the United States, between 20,000 and 60,000 people a year die of the flu. And early on in this coronavirus crisis, people said, well, why are we getting so upset? Because we accept that 20 to 60,000 people every year are going to die of the flu, and we don't socially distance, we don't isolate, and why should we this time? And I think the important thing for people to realize is that the flu, while certainly deadly, is not nearly as infectious, number one, as this COVID-19. And the flu has a very short incubation time, usually within 48 hours of exposure. If you're going to develop the flu, you know it. And you know it quite dramatically, headaches, fevers, you want to go to bed, you don't want to move. And so you know when you have the flu, and quite frankly, most people, when they have the flu, aren't out and about spreading it. I've been an intensivist for over 40 years, and we, in 40 years in the United States, with major flus, the H1N1, other major flus, never overwhelmed our ability to ventilate patients. We never overwhelmed our ICUs. Yeah, we got busy, certainly, but we never overwhelmed our ability to ventilate patients with the flu. With the coronavirus, the problem is we're beginning to realize that many people have been infected with this, and they have a mild illness or don't even have any symptoms. Very much like many people who catch a cold, think it's an allergy, or, I just got the sniffles and that's about it. And this has been hitting, particularly in the United States, during allergy season when trees are beginning to bloom. So this virus is infective like the common cold, unlike the flu. And you can have this long period of time before you actually may show symptoms. So rather than a 2-day period of time for flu symptoms, you may go 7 to 10 days before you may start exhibiting symptoms. So there's this huge period of time where people have been walking around unknowing that they're spreading this virus. And the second thing, and I think we'll get into that, is that this virus, unlike the flu, in susceptible people, has just a horrible, what's called a cytokine storm in the lungs that the flu doesn't do. And that's why so many people have ended up on ventilators. And once this process starts, at the moment, we don't have a good treatment to stop it, except for trying to wait it out by having people on ventilators. So the virus wants us to make copies and wants you to spread them. So the virus doesn't want to kill you. That would be really stupid. If you're dead, the virus can't spread. So the cytokine storm, as we see it right now, is your immune system overreacting to this viral infection in actually the lower parts of the lungs. And this has a very typical appearance on X-ray. It's not like bacterial pneumonias that we're used to dealing with. And it's this intense inflammatory reaction against the virus. And the whole idea of, clamping down on civil liberties goes actually against human nature. But one of the things that particularly the Brits know how to do from the World War II experience is, in fact, follow rules that are draconian to save your lives, and America to a lesser extent. But I think because of the Greatest Generation, we do have a shared experience where if you're asked to follow the rules, we're pretty doggone good at following rules. Okay, let's suppose we hit a peak and we start going down, and we do allow people to mingle. There is some suggestion, particularly out of Singapore, that we will see a new peak as people who were assumed to be uninfected anymore are still infected. And just this morning, speaking with a virologist, they are beginning to worry that this particular virus mutates very rapidly, like the common cold rapidly mutates. Here's the deal. Obviously everybody wants a vaccine, and that'd be a wonderful thing, but you have to step back for a second and realize there is no vaccine to the common cold. And we could build a vaccine to the common cold, but in 2 months that virus would mutate and we'd be at it again. We can build a vaccine to influenza, flu, but as all of us know, that virus mutates about once a year. And so we're almost always a year behind with the current flu virus. So imagine, and I'm not saying it's going to, but imagine if this virus, which is a cousin of the common cold, mutates like the common cold. And then all these projections are sadly much lower than what may happen. So there's two things that can happen. If it's a seasonal virus, we're going to get a break, but that means it's probably going to be back next fall and winter, hopefully in its same form. If we don't get a break, then this virus is going to mutate like the common cold, and we'll see. We are social creatures. My major, my area of study as an undergraduate at Yale University was in human biologic and social evolution, how we evolved socially. And we are, like all other great apes, incredibly social beings, and incredibly important to have individual to individual contact. Now, we don't pick fleas off of each other much anymore, but the entire social grooming, the entire social networking is very, part of our biologic makeup. And there was no question in my studying of social grouping as we evolved that this was, a incredible driving force of what actually made humans rather than just great apes. Actually, the whole idea of face interaction, of looking at expressions, of watching eyebrows move up and down. One of the arguments against social media in general, or text messaging or Twitter, is you don't actually see facial expressions as someone is either praising you or cutting you to ribbons on social media. And it's that person-to-person interaction that we as a species thrive on and need. And I think that's why you see this uptick in depression, in suicides, in alcohol consumption. When you got nothing better to do, that's one of the things we treat ourselves with. And I think not only is this social distancing, there's probably a breaking point where society, the economies will collapse unless we go back to work. Or simultaneously, our entire psyche may collapse unless we have a way to interact.